Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan and thank you for coming to my channel. Okay, so we're at the 20 gallon Oase Cinescaper, part of a kit that you can now get in the United States of America. It's a really fine glass box for sure, and the cabinet here is pretty terrific as well. But I'm not going to get into a product sell, not really. If you have any questions about this aquarium, by all means hit me up or visit your better LFS, because I know that Oase is now stocking them, their USA division, at some better fish stores willing to take a chance with them and their glass boxes. And this is one, and I was an early adopter and I've been very, very happy. So you're looking at something else that makes me very, very happy. The status quo of this tank. I think the last time I filmed it for you, it was more overgrown, so to speak. I mean, all the same plants were here and they were all thriving and doing what they're doing here, but they were just bigger and flopping over the top of the water. And since then, obviously, I have cut this tank, and I'd actually cut it even more so than this about a week ago. So this is a week since the trim, and I wanted to highlight some of the things that I am seeing, and hopefully you would see if you do the same thing in your tank. So the carpet, last time I showed this to you, I mean, it was green and healthy, but it was all over the place, and there were tendrils and reaching out into the second strata here, which I'll get to in a moment. And it was getting 3-4 inches high with this dwarf Sagittarius, dwarf Sag, and Helanthemum tellum and dwarf hairgrass, which over time is all sort of blended together to create kind of like the rough on a golf course, not a putting green, but not the total rough, but whatever they call it in between stuff. You know what I mean, right? It is so freaking beautiful. Now, as you get super close, it may be less beautiful, but it is certainly fascinating. And you see the roots reaching down into the stratification of the aqua soil with the sand. I believe this front portion was just aqua soil with a bit of sand on top, and that's it. And I used more ingredients toward the center and back of this tank to support stems. But I chopped this carpet just moving along with my scissors, not thinking about one plant or another or any different need states for these plants. I just cut to about 1 inch, and then I, netted all the tops from the top of the tank. And obviously, you want to turn your filter off when you do that to make your life a lot easier. So by all means, folks, mix up your carpeting plants. Don't be beholden to one necessarily. You can, but you don't have to. And cut when it gets too high and thick and leggy. You will get problems there. You will get moss and algae accruing, and you will get a stratification in the plant layer where the bottom portion is not getting enough light, so it dies and rots. Now, in nature, that would support the overall growth of the plant, but in a contained biotope like an aquarium, we need to help it out. We can't let that happen. So the second layer, this is what's really exciting to me. This is Hygrophila uruguay. And when you have highlight and CO2, it doesn't grow up to the top. It grows into a nice, beautiful pink and red, just very elegant and sexy plant. And that's precisely what this has done here. So much so that I'm thinking I will add some of those very same stems where some of this Blixa japonica is. And I love Blixa japonica. It's a rare, hard to grow plant as well, and no slouch when it comes to aquascaping, but it blends a lot with what I've got going on in the carpet. And I think the symmetry of having that wonderful plant on the left be the same thing on the right is probably too irresistible for me. I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet and do that. I might keep some of this Blixa japonica anyway, because I do adore this plant. It's a great alternative to some of the grasses, and it grows like almost, it has an aloe vera quality. If you think of a terrestrial plant, it has a spear-like root, and you can pull that out really easy. It doesn't have a, well, it will have white roots like any other plant, but that spear, and I'm not sure if it's a rhizome or just a rootstock, is fascinating, and it does make it easy to work with. It can be hard to plant because it doesn't have anything to that you can catch in the soil, and so if you're using aqua soil, that can be a little soft. But you know what? I didn't have any problems with it, and neither will you. Now look at this bucephalandra. Look at that color. Look at that growth. So cool. Really happy with that. And you can see the purple right there as we move along the carpet. As I told in my last video, maybe a couple times, most of this bucephalandra I got at Petco being sold on a mat tied together with thread for like $8. Now it didn't look like this when I bought it. No sir. It looked kind of like crummy green and bedraggled. But I took a chance with it, cut off all the threads, and attached each of these to its own little rock and inserted it behind the carpeting plant beneath the Anubias. And look at it now, so cool. This is a garden variety crypt, probably like a rust colored Wendetti, but because of good fortune, I mean, this is super high light for a crypt, and it's being hit with CO2, but the result is this stunning, eye-blinding color, and it makes a great centerpiece. So cool with the texture on the leaves. If someone can tell me what they think the exact name for this crypt is, by all means do so in the comments. So one challenge, and now I'm looking at it as a compromise, by turbocharging my light and what have you, and eliminating much of the floating plants, that intensity has hurt this Anubias big time. And you can see the leaves accruing that sort of hard calcareous type algae that sort of dooms the leaf for sure. And I have cut some of those off, and some just fall off and I take them. But you can see as the plant adapts to its new condition, there is a beautiful fresh leaf right there, and there's some more evidence of that throughout the centerpiece. And then the Anubias petite is not having those issues, or at least not to that extent. And I have some of that surrounding, and in there you could see some, and around the edge here. But this main Barteri or Coffeola, whatever strain, it did get those algae forms almost, a week after I made some changes to this tank to allow for these red stems in the back to have the best possible chance of doing what they do. And so I look at it as a compromise, because clearly it worked. The super red Ludwigia and this repens here, I think that's repens. It could be ovalis or the other strain, I forget, but it's a Ludwigia repens form. And then of course this is the super red Ludwigia, super red mini. I made those a priority because getting high red plants in my fish room, I hadn't really ever achieved before, nor had I tried for it. And the early attempts were so-so at best, and I wanted to make it happen. It was a challenge for me. It was a bucket list thing. And I kind of knew these low light loving Anubias were going to take a hit. Fortunately, the Bucephalandra, which tolerates, and some of them even love a higher light, they're fine. But there is that pain and suffering watching this plant hopefully transition and not flat out die. But I did want to point out, you know, the good, obviously, and I'm doing that, but also some of the challenges. I mean, that's clearly a problem, and I could solve it by lowering the light and its intensity and duration, but then I wouldn't get that Hygrophila arugula to look like that. I wouldn't get the super red to be quite as good. Now this will grow without great light and CO2, but it just kind of looks brownish purple, and it gets leggier and not as bushy. And so this is the desired iconic form of the plant. And likewise this plant here, which when the light is not super intense and the conditions aren't as they are, the lower leaves always fall off and get, you know, and die. And that still happens. I'll show you. There's one right there, a dead leaf from the lower part of that plant. I mean, I have that issue with Ludwigia, the bigger leafed varieties, and I'm, you know, trying to work with it and make the best of it. Another challenge, which I've kind of conceded is no big deal, is the Wallachia, the Rotala Wallachii, or Wallachii. I've heard it called all those different things. That's this feathery center plant with the red tops. I had a bigger amount of it there, but over time it was losing the battle for both growth and health to the two plants on its left and right. And so I pulled some of it out. I left a little bit in there just because, you know, it's a lovely plant and you never know. I mean, if you're patient, sometimes strange and miraculous things can happen. So I didn't just pull the damn thing out, because what would I have done if I did that? Well, I would have added maybe one more stem of this or a little more of that. I mean, might as well keep that in here. I would love to see it reach up in that blank space right there for sure. Pogo stem and octopus. I've controlled this growth, this population of that plant, and it's doing super good. It's right by the CO2, so it gets the, you know, it's the first mouth on the water fountain in terms of CO2 delivery. I have to cut this a lot. It grows fast as heck. I didn't want to pull it. It's an easy plant and it's a beautiful plant, and the texture is a great counterpoint to a whole lot of other types of plants you will find in the aquascaping and planted tank community. Now, this is Limonphilia sessiflora, and it used to dominate this whole back half of the tank. Now, those have all been cut down. In a week, they will be up to the top of the water. All right, well, 10 days at most, especially with this light and CO2. And I wanted to keep that alive and well in this tank, but not as much as I had before. I'm able to use that plant in so many places, and it's such a cool plant. I call it the Dr. Seuss plant because of those pom-poms. It's like from his child books, those illustrations from Dr. Seuss. But that's Limonphilia sessiflora, super fast growing, super easy plant. It was one of the heroes when I tried to take my aquascaping to the next level. It was one of the first stems I even bothered with, and it is wonderful. When this grows out here in that 7 to 10 days and is a nice counterpoint to all this red and the pogo stem to the left, how wonderful is that? That is, by the way, a Chihiro's Slim. I don't know if there's a better light. I really don't. And what it does for the reds, well, you can see for yourself. And some of that is the light, folks. It's not just the plant. And if I go around the fish room and were to show you other great lights, none of them can do what the Chihiros can do because of their RGB and the color spectrum that they put into their product, at least into this one. Now, because I'm standing right in front of the tank and doing all this filming, most of the livestock has retreated to the back. And as some of my regulars, thank you very much, are aware of, I do have beautiful fish in here, but they tend to be shy. Now I see as they move back, the gold or brass tetras, the green neons, and the red pencil fish, the Bexford pencil fish, all start to move out. And they're beautiful jewels too, and look what the light does to that shimmer. Gold tetras, I've said it before and I'll say it again, super underrated. Get yourself a group of them. Nothing else has that metallic goldish brass color. It is not dull or boring. It's fantastic. Look at that. Boom. It's so lovely. And those are like $4 to $6 a piece. And cheaper, but I wouldn't trust the El Cheapo ones from, like, well, I'm not going to get into calling out vendors, but they're cheap, even the best ones. I've got some red cherry shrimp. You know, are those Bloody Marys? Well, they sure look like it under this light. I'm telling you, everything red, just crimson, red, and pink just explodes. And white doesn't look too bad either. I mean, that's almost blinding, that albino longfin Coreodora. There are 5 of them in here. Look at that. Crowd pleaser. I've got 5 of them. I'm telling you, if I found their eggs in here, and I haven't, I would absolutely figure out a way to get a group of those. They are so fantastic. And here we go, a helper, a gimonstrous Amato shrimp and a mystery snail helping me keep this tank fit and trim. I'm a big believer in cleanup crews. I like autocinkless, different snails, different kinds of shrimp, Coreodoras, although they don't eat trash, or, you know, nothing eats trash, but, you know, they don't eat dead plant or animal matter. But they eat the fallen food that can rapidly turn into trash. You gotta have some Coreodoras. I have them in all my tanks, and there's so many wonderful varieties to choose from. Whoop, there he goes. They will pull a bubble of air from time to time from the top of the water. Speaking of which, I keep a little bit of Brazilian pennywort always, just to keep my population of that plant going. This is about a 1 foot length of it, and I clip it all the time and bring wonderful clippings to my LFS and either give them to him or her as a token of goodwill, and sometimes they trade me for a plant, or maybe I need a couple nearite snails, something like that. But nothing else, no more topwater plants. I don't have duckweed, and I don't have Sylvinia or frogbit, and all those things used to be in here, and quite a lot of it, and that would not allow me to get the right kind of growth from those stems in the back. It would also, you know, it would block the light, and then algae could, you know, mediocre growth and algae at the top of the water line where everything would meet, where the stems would meet the floating plants. That would become, well, I was gonna cuss, but it would become a mess. And I just eliminated it, and yeah, the Anubias is paying a price for that. I'm hoping, because of that beautiful center leaf and a little bit of other leaves, that it will rebound. And I sort of don't have a plan B. I'll kind of do what the tank tells me to do. I mean, look at all those green neons. You can see them, just all the little glimmers, even in their reclusive way. They're absolutely mesmerizing. I've got my Christmas moss on one of these wonderful magnetized hangers. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this moss. I mean, this Amano shrimp knows what to do with it. You know, I've got a whole bunch of it already in that container right there. That's a lot too. That's a softball sized, and it's all healthy and deep green. I would give some away if people were in the Chicago area, because this is not your father's Java moss. This is the best moss. I have a ton of it, and it grows so well in good light and CO2, especially when it's not encumbered by other plants in and around it. This is not as good because I had it in a tank with low light, and you can see the difference. I put it in here a few days ago, but it was getting stringy and kind of crummy like that. Now, a lot of people think that's just fine, and I suppose it is just fine. But when you compare it to that, I mean, it's the same plant, but you can see the difference. Now, it doesn't take a botanist to tell you that if I just leave this here, it's going to convert to that beauteous form. But as I joked about a minute ago, I've got so much of it, I'm not sure what I'm saving it for. I guess you never know. And I will take it to a swap or give it to a friend or trade it to an LFS as part of the joy and fun of this hobby. I wish more of the fish were out. I guess it's sort of an Achilles heel of this tank. But the plants are so freaking beautiful, and I'm so happy right now that it supersedes any misgivings I might have about shy fish. And every time I move back, you can see the fish start to move out. And when I'm sitting in my chair right here, they're out. That's far enough away so that they're not intimidated. I think that highlight and the exposure in this room here does make these fish a bit shyer than in all my other tanks, which absolutely do not have this issue. But whatever the case may be, algae on the Anubias shy fish, I do consider this aquarium a success work in progress, but a successful one. And let me know what you think. If you have any questions or ideas or thoughts, I've learned a lot from the Discord on my channel. I really have. Some of you in particular have given me advice, and now I consider it the gospel. So by all means, I'm not going to be offended if you want to call me out for something or ask me to try something different or change something. It's a two-way street at Lush and Salty Aquariums. Okay, everybody, as usual, keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully, and ciao for now.